A very good morning to you all and a very warm welcome. Goeiemôre aan julle almal en baie welkom. Today is the 18th of March 2023 and as always please remember to press that like button, subscribe and share our videos. And of course, as I always ask you to place your comments below the video so I can gauge our topic and our conversations and your thinking in line with mine. Today's topic, I'm going to talk about Hitler is here, along with other various bad decisions taken back in World War II up to the very present. I did mention in my previous videos that today would be, or my next video would be in Afrikaans, but I've got more preparation work needed there, so I'm going to move that out to next time. And as always, in closing, I'm going to ask the question, what's the way forward? And of course, decision time, what do we do? Now, before we start, let me just look at bad decisions taken. What's the understanding of bad decisions? Examples of bad or stupid decisions is like jumping into water without knowing how deep it is. Not wearing a safety belt when driving, and engaging in a physical fight and not protecting yourself. And the following four reasons are why people make poor decisions: tribalism, the wrong incentives, underestimating adaptation, and letting other people with different values influence you. Now, we've all made bad decisions. There's not anybody on this earth that hasn't made bad decisions. I, for one, have made many bad decisions, but we have to learn through those bad decisions. I think, or I know well, that through bad decisions we actually improve our existence and the way forward. Right, so let's look at World War II in Europe. We all know well who Hitler was, and of course during the Holocaust, the genocide that took place with the European Jews during World War II. Between 1941 and 1945, Nazi Germany and its collaborators were responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews. Now, if we look at that period, the Jewish leadership, did they have a plan in place? Was there intelligence resources in place? Why did 6 million Jews end up in gas chambers? What went wrong? What did the people not do back in the day in World War II? So obviously the leadership, or the Jewish leadership, didn't have a plan in place. Bad decisions were taken, no decisions were taken, but this ended up in a Holocaust. And obviously the world came to know about Hitler and the death camps in Germany. Right, I'm going to use that as a starting point and move over to Ukraine. Who is the Hitler in the Ukraine war between Russia and Ukraine? Who's the Hitler there? You know, to date, there's over 600,000 soldiers and people have died, and 35,000 missing in action. If you zoom into the social media that's in circulation of drone footage, it's moving to see how a country can be so devastated. And the people, the millions of people, they've lost their homes, their loved ones, and who's responsible for this? You know, with modern technology, one can find out who are the people behind this. And as time goes on, the people or the researchers should zoom in to the troublemakers that have brought this catastrophe to the Ukrainian people. The loss of life to Russian soldiers, the loss of life to the Ukrainian soldiers and families, just not acceptable. And the thing here is that bad decisions were taken in the Russia-Ukraine war. Bad decisions have ended up in all these deaths. I mean, 600,000 plus people dead. Unimaginable. Now, what's the difference between 6 million Jews and 600,000 Ukrainians, Russians that have lost their lives in the battlefield? For what? Right, let's go over to America. I'm using these various countries so you can see where I'm going with this, zooming back into South Africa. America. Who's the Hitler in America? How many Indians lost their lives during the American history of 1492? Almost 100 million indigenous people were killed prematurely because of various leadership, greed, and business initiatives and political initiatives. So, looking at America and the conquest for the New World Order, wars, ethnic cleansing, and enslavement, America lost 100 million Indians. Zoom in on that. Let me hear your comments. And yeah, it's a mess. It's sad to think that so much human life is lost due to political and certain business individuals' greed. And the world remains quiet. Yes, we know of Hitler of Germany, but where's the Hitler of America? Let's move over to Australia. Who's the Hitler in Australia back in the day? You know, there were many Aborigines that were killed in the 1900s. We're looking here in the region of 1.5 million that lost their lives in Australia. Who's the Hitler there? All these massacres that took place in Australia were done by police and other government forces. Shocking. These are the Aborigines of Australia. Let's move over to New Zealand. Thousands of Maoris died in the Muscat Wars during the periods of 1810 and 1830 up to the 1900s. So that's outside our borders, outside the Africa continent. Let's move to Africa. Let's see who's the Hitlers in Africa. Rwanda. We all know what happened in Rwanda during the 1994 Rwanda genocide against the Tutsis, Hutus and Tutsis, members of the Hutu ethnic majority in the Eastern Central Africa nation of Rwanda murdered 800,000 people. And that was the minority. Those were the Tutsis. They were the minority. 800,000. If we look at Angola and Mozambique, you can go and Google who's the Hitler there. The tens and hundreds of thousands of people that were cleaned up during the early, late 60s, early 70s. It's all on Google. Have a look. Let's move to Zimbabwe. Who's the Hitler in Zimbabwe? We have 300,000 Ndebele's that were annihilated, massacred in 1980s. And who was there? Robert Mugabe was there. Mnangagwa was there. Emerson Mnangagwa, the present president of Zimbabwe. And when you ask the Zimbabwean people, do they know about this? They say they do know about this. So I said, well, what do you do? They say there's something they can do. As I've mentioned in previous videos, there isn't a family in Zimbabwe that hasn't lost a family member directly or indirectly to political violence. Right, this brings me to South Africa. Who is the Hitler in South Africa? Let's look at the South African history. During the Anglo-Boer War, 38,000 women and children. Bad decisions were taken then with various leadership that led to this massacre, this loss of life. Then if we come to the democracy of 1994 in South Africa, that everybody took vote. How many farm murders do we have? And they're increasing by the month. 3,500 plus. Who's the Hitler here? Who hasn't done their jobs? Shocking. South African politics. Who's the Hitler in the various political arenas? Ramaphosa, Julius Malema. What's going on? Did our loss of life in South Africa since 1994, if you go and do the calculations, you'll see we're not far behind Rwanda. Rwanda had 800,000 members that died to genocide. If you just look at the South African statistics, crime statistics, and political motivated violence, we're not far behind Rwanda at 800,000 since 1994, 27 years ago. So, looking at this, we are sitting in a situation where we have a Hitler-type leadership with the EFF, which is the model of the ZANU-PF of Zimbabwe. And we're all sitting at home hoping that things will get better, praying that things will get better. But as I've said before, your faith has to have action. You have to have solutions. You have to have mobile solutions for your family, mobile solutions for your work, and obviously have a plan of action in the event of anarchy. And as I've always said, just do it. Join an organization like ourselves that has a national emergency plan initiative that kicks in when the government can no longer guarantee your safety. And I must say, in the first time ever has the ANC leadership stood up on mainstream media and have said that they will look after all people and all businesses. And let's see if this comes to pass during the course of the weekend and the following days of the 20th of March this year going forward. And as always, please remember the 10-10 principle. Share our videos with all your friends. Tell 10 people, and those 10 people tell another 10 people. I'm looking forward to talking to you all again soon. Stay well, keep safe over this weekend and ongoing in the weeks of this year, and keep sharp. Tot ziens en groete.